Some sounds aren't meant for human ears, but that night, I heard a mother's grief in a language older than words. My hands pressed against the frozen window, breath fogging the glass as I stared into the Alaskan darkness. 11:47 at night, negative 50 degrees. The thermometer had stopped pretending hours ago. That sound, it wasn't the wind screaming through Denali's peaks. It was crying, desperate, maternal, blood trail, fresh crimson against fresh snow, leading straight to our cabin door. I saw her then, collapsed, gray fur matted with ice and darker stains. Beneath her, barely visible, a smaller shadow trembled. Behind me, the unmistakable sound of my grandfather's rifle cocking split the silence. "Step away from that window, Nayeli." But the wolf mother's eyes found mine through the glass. In them, I recognized something that would haunt me forever, the same look my own mother must have worn. Before we continue, please leave a like and let me know which city you're watching from. Now, let's get back to the story. Our cabin sat 80 miles from the nearest town, hand-built by my great-grandfather in 1923 from Sitka spruce and prayers. We had radio contact only on Thursdays, when atmospheric conditions permitted. 3 months' worth of supplies lined the root cellar, though we were running dangerously low. 1 rifle, 14 bullets left. The wood stove provided our only heat, its hungry belly consuming log after log as the storm entered its 4th merciless day. No electricity, no neighbors, no rescue if things went wrong. I was born in Anchorage 10 years ago, but my mother died bringing me into this world. My father, Dakota, raised me alone until I was 7, teaching me to track, trap, start fires in wet conditions, and read the wilderness like scripture. When he died 3 winters ago, Grandfather Ahiga took me in temporarily, he said, though we both knew better. He homeschooled me through mail-order programs, and I learned survival skills that no classroom could teach. I was small for my age, but had strong hands and my father's gray eyes. Under my pillow, I kept Dad's journal, its pages worn from nightly readings. I still talked to his spirit every day, whispering my fears and hopes into the darkness. I hadn't cried at his funeral. I hadn't cried since... Grandfather Ahiga was 68, a Navajo tracker who'd served in Korea and come home with medals he never displayed and nightmares he never discussed. He'd lost his daughter, my mother, in 1985, then his son-in-law in 1992. 2 deaths, 3 years apart. Had carved canyons into his weathered face. He blamed wolves for the second loss, taught me to fear them, hate them, shoot them if necessary. He kept the loaded rifle by the door and drank whiskey on my father's birthday. 2 fingers were missing from his left hand, claimed by frostbite years before I was born. When he spoke of my father's death, his remaining fingers shook. The official story was simple wolf pack attacked Dakota while he checked trap lines. But Grandfather's hands always trembled when he told it, and I was beginning to understand why. I disobeyed. At 11:50 that night, while Grandfather loaded his rifle, I cracked open the cabin door. The cold struck like a physical blow, stealing breath from lungs. The mother wolf lay 3 feet from our threshold, her gray coat crusted with ice and blood. A steel trap clamped her hind leg, metal teeth buried so deep I could see white bone gleaming in the moonlight. She was massive, easily 100 pounds, but reduced now to shallow, labored breathing that sent small clouds into the frigid air. Beneath her, barely visible, a wolf pup trembled. It wasn't breathing properly. Each breath came as a weak, desperate wheeze. The thermometer had dropped to negative 52 degrees Celsius. Nothing survived long in this cold, especially not something so small and exposed. The mother wolf's eyes met mine. I expected aggression, the wild fury Grandfather had warned me about. Instead, I saw something that stopped my heart recognition, understanding. She wasn't looking at me as prey or threat. She was looking at me as another mother would, begging me to save her child. The pup's chest barely moved. "Get inside." Grandfather's voice cracked like a whip behind me. "Those creatures killed your father." I didn't move. "She's dying." "Grandfather." "Good." His boots hit the wooden floor as he approached. "One less murderer in these mountains." But I couldn't look away from the wolf's eyes. Somewhere in their amber depths, I saw the same desperate love my own mother must have felt in her final moments, knowing she was leaving a child behind. The wolf made no aggressive move despite her obvious pain. Instead, she used her last strength to push the pup toward our door, toward warmth, toward life. Would Dad shoot her? I asked quietly. The question hung in the frozen air between us. Grandfather's finger rested on the trigger, the rifle aimed at the wolf's head. His hand trembled, not from cold, but from something deeper. For 30 seconds, nobody moved. The wind howled. The pup wheezed. The mother wolf kept her eyes on me, asking a question across species, across language, across everything that supposedly divided us. Neither helps nor kills tonight, Grandfather finally said, his voice rough. We close this door and let nature take its course. The door shut. I heard the bolt slide home. Grandfather's footsteps retreated toward his room, followed by the sound of a whiskey bottle opening. Within 20 minutes, his snoring rattled the walls. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling beams, counting my father's heartbeats in my memory. At 1 o'clock in the morning, I made my decision. The back window opened silently. I'd oiled the hinges months ago for moments requiring discretion. The cold tried to kill me instantly, but I'd wrapped myself in every layer I owned. The mother wolf had moved the pup to our woodpile, a small gesture of hope, before collapsing 10 feet away in the snow. She was still breathing, but barely. Her trap-mangled leg had stopped bleeding, which meant hypothermia was shutting down her body. When I approached the pup, her eyes opened. I froze, expecting her to lunge despite her condition. Instead, she simply watched as I lifted her baby, so small it fit in my 2 hands. I promise, I whispered to her. I'll bring him back. The wolf's response was a single thump of her tail in the snow. Once, deliberate. An agreement made between 2 mothers, one dying, one barely more than a child herself. I carried the pup inside through the window, my heart hammering. He was nearly gone, his tiny body cold as ice. I wrapped him in the blanket from my mother's hope chest, the one she'd made for me before I was born, white wool with blue stitching. It seemed right, somehow, to use something made with mother love to save a mother's child. I hid him under my bed and fashioned a feeding tube from the goat milk we kept for cooking. The pup's heartbeat was faint, but present, a fragile flutter against my palm. I pressed my forehead to his small head and whispered a prayer to my father's spirit. Help me save him like you would have. Show me I'm your daughter. In the darkness, the pup's tongue touched my thumb. He was still alive. Morning came cold and gray. I'd been awake all night, feeding the pup every 2 hours, monitoring his breathing, keeping him warm against my chest. By 6 o'clock, he was stronger. His eyes had opened gray, startlingly like my own, and he'd managed to drink milk without the tube. I was changing his blanket when Grandfather's voice froze me in place. Where is your mother's blanket? I turned slowly. He stood in my doorway, still in his long underwear, his weathered face harder than the permafrost beneath our cabin. His eyes went to the bundle under my bed, then back to me. Nayeli, what did you do? I pulled the pup out, holding him against my chest. He was tiny, maybe 3 pounds, his fur still downy soft. I saved him. You... Grandfather's face turned a dangerous shade of red. You betrayed your father's memory. Those animals killed him, and you bring one into his home. I honored his memory, I said quietly. Dad would have done the same thing. Your father died because of that thinking. He took a step forward, hand outstretched. Give me that creature. Now. No. The word hung between us like a thrown gauntlet. I'd never refused him before, never disobeyed a direct command. But something in me had changed overnight, something that felt like my father's hand on my shoulder, steadying me. I am the adult here. I make the decisions. His voice dropped to a growl. Put that animal outside, or I will. Then you'll have to shoot me first. We stared at each other across my small bedroom. The pup squirmed in my arms, making a sound between a whimper and a bark. Outside, the wind battered our walls. The wood stove ticked as metal expanded. Grandfather saw something in my face that made him pause. Years later, he'd tell me it was my father looking back at him, the same stubborn set of jaw, the same willingness to die for principle. In that moment, I wasn't his compliant granddaughter anymore. I was Dakota's daughter, and that meant something. 24 hours, he finally said. You have 1 day to try to save it. Then it goes back outside, alive or dead. Understood? Yes, sir. He turned and left without another word. I named the pup Siku Ice, in my father's adopted Inuit language. Every 2 hours. I fed him. Every hour. I checked his breathing. By mid-morning, he was strong enough to crawl. By noon, he took milk on his own, his small tongue lapping eagerly at the bowl. When he made his first tiny bark, more squeak than howl, I laughed. Actually laughed, from somewhere deep in my belly, a sound I hadn't made in 3 years. The grief that had been locked in my chest cracked open just slightly, letting in a sliver of light. From the kitchen, Grandfather's coffee cup paused halfway to his lips. He heard it. That laugh, his granddaughter, returned to him after 3 years of silence. He closed his eyes, and I thought I saw his shoulders shake. He didn't say anything about the water he boiled without being asked, or the clean rags he left outside my door, or the way he stopped walking past my room with his rifle. Late afternoon, Siku was playing with a piece of rope when I remembered my father's journal. I pulled it from under my pillow, thumbing through entries I'd read 100 times. But this time, I was looking for something specific. Grandfather, I called. He came to my doorway, wary. How exactly did the wolves kill Dad? His jaw tightened. They attacked him on the North Ridge. You know this. But Dad's journal says he never went north in winter. He said the ice was too unstable. Silence. Long and heavy. Maybe I misremembered the location. You don't misremember where your son died. I kept my voice level, but my heart was racing. What really happened? It was 3 years ago. Nayeli. Memory fades. I turned pages until I found what I was looking for. December 19th, 1992. 2 days before he died. I read aloud. Checked trap lines today. Found wolf in Crane's trap near the Eastern Creek. Cruel way to die. Steel teeth through bone. Going back tomorrow to free it. I looked up. Crane, William Crane. The color drained from Grandfather's face like water from a broken bucket. His hand gripped the doorframe so hard his knuckles went white. For a moment, I thought he might collapse. How did you... He couldn't finish the sentence. Dad's journal. He wrote about it. I turned more pages, my hands shaking now. December 20th, the day he died. Going back to free the wolf. Can't let it suffer another night. Crane's traps are illegal anyway, too close to federal land. Did the right thing reporting him. Grandfather's face had gone from white to gray. Stop. Who is William Crane? I said stop. Tell me the truth. Your father was a fool. The words exploded from him like a gunshot. He chose a wolf over. His voice broke. He turned away, shoulders hunched. He was a fool. And it got him killed. He grabbed his coat and walked out into the blizzard, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. I sat on my bed, holding the journal, my mind racing. My father had reported someone named William Crane for illegal trapping. He'd died trying to free a wolf from that man's trap. And somehow, grandfather had blamed the wolves instead of the man who'd set the trap. Outside, through my window, I could see the mother wolf, still there, still alive, still watching our door, waiting for her baby, or waiting for something else entirely. I spent the afternoon reading every page of my father's journal, searching for pieces of a puzzle I was only beginning to understand. Siku slept in his box beside me, occasionally whimpering in dreams. December 18th, 1992. Crane's traps are getting more aggressive. Found one today, set illegally on federal land, just inside the boundary line. Wolf caught in it, already dead. Fourth one this month. Called the Rangers. They're opening an investigation. December 19th, 1992. Crane confronted me at the trading post. Said I'm costing him his livelihood. Told him his livelihood is costing lives. He didn't take it well. Going back tomorrow to check if there are more traps. Can't let another animal suffer. December 20th, 1992. Going to free the wolf. Can't let it suffer. The entry ended there. Unfinished. The day he died. I turned to the back of the journal, where Dad kept newspaper clippings and receipts. Tucked between 2 pages, I found a yellowed article from the Anchorage Daily News, dated December 22nd, 1992. Local man dies in wilderness accident. Wolf attack suspected. The article was brief, clinical. Dakota's body found by his father-in-law near the Eastern Creek. Evidence suggested wolf involvement. Investigation closed due to harsh winter conditions. Services to be held in Anchorage. But behind it, hidden, was a second clipping, smaller. From January 1993, trapper faces charges for illegal trap placement. I read it 3 times, my hands trembling. William Crane, 42, facing federal charges for illegal trapping on protected land, multiple violations. Anonymous tip led rangers to discover 24 illegal traps. Crane claimed persecution by environmental extremists. Case pending. The connection crystallized in my mind like ice forming on a window. My father had reported Crane, had died freeing a wolf from Crane's trap. And somehow, wolves had taken the blame. I needed to know more. By mid-afternoon on the 3rd day, the mother wolf had been lying in our woodpile for 38 hours. I watched her through the window, my breath fogging the glass. Snow had covered her like a burial shroud, but I could still see the slight rise and fall of her breathing. She was dying, but she wouldn't leave. Couldn't leave. Her baby was inside. I couldn't bear it anymore. I heated broth from yesterday's stew and carried it outside in a tin bowl. The cold attacked me instantly, but I pushed through the snow to where she lay. Her eyes opened amber and ancient and so tired. "I brought you something," I whispered, setting the bowl near her muzzle. "Please drink." She didn't move, just watched me with those exhausted eyes. The trap still clamped around her leg, her body shutting down, one system at a time. "Your baby is safe," I told her. "He's warm. He's eating. He's going to live." A single tear, I swear it was a tear, tracked through the frost on her fur. I knelt closer, moving slowly. "I'm going to try to help your leg." "Okay." When I reached for the trap, she snapped weakly at my hand. Instinct. Pain. Fear. I didn't pull away. "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm like you. I lost someone too." I don't know if she understood my words or my tone, but something shifted in her eyes. She stopped resisting, allowed me to examine the trap, though I could see each touch caused her agony. The steel had cut through muscle to bone. Even if I freed her, she might never walk properly again. I placed my hand on her head, feeling the cold of her fur, the faint warmth of life beneath. "I won't let you die alone out here. I promise." She leaned into my touch barely, but unmistakably. Two mothers, two species, sharing a moment of understanding that needed no language. Shared grief, shared love, shared hope. That evening, grandfather returned half frozen, his face chapped raw from wind, his eyes hollow. He'd been gone for hours, walking in the storm, wrestling with demons. I was only beginning to comprehend. He sat by the fire without removing his coat, staring into the flames like they held answers. I sat across from him, waiting. Siku slept in my lap. "Tell me the truth," I finally said. 20 minutes of silence. The fire crackled, wind howled, the cabin creaked. Then, so quietly I almost missed it. "Your father didn't die from a wolf attack." The world tilted. I gripped Siku tighter. He was freeing a wolf from William Crane's trap. The trap was set on a cliff edge, where the ice meets rock. Unstable ground. Grandfather's voice was hollow, mechanical, like he was reading from a script he'd rehearsed for 3 years. The trap mechanism gave way when Dakota tried to release it. The whole edge collapsed. He fell 30 feet onto the frozen creek. My throat closed. I couldn't breathe. By the time I found him, his voice cracked. The wolves had been there, but they didn't kill him. The fall did. Broken neck. Internal bleeding. He was probably gone before he hit the ice. Then why? I couldn't finish, because I couldn't admit I failed to protect him. The words came faster now, like poison he'd held too long. Because I was supposed to be there. He'd asked me to come with him, but I said I was too old for rescue missions. Because I needed someone to hate, and dead wolves couldn't defend themselves. You've hated them for 3 years for something they didn't do. I needed someone to blame. Nayeli. If I didn't blame them, I'd have to blame myself. The confession hung between us like smoke. Outside, the mother wolf's howl cut through the night weak, but defiant. Still alive, still fighting. We didn't hear the snowmobile until it was almost at our door. Grandfather tensed instantly, his hand going to his rifle. "No one comes here in winter." The engine cut. Footsteps crunched in snow. A shadow appeared at our window. Then a knock, hard, aggressive, official. Grandfather opened the door 6 inches, rifle visible. "Can I help you?" The man outside was tall, weathered, maybe 45, with a face carved by wind and something darker. A rifle hung across his back. His eyes were cold and focused. "I'm tracking a wolf. Wounded. She's been killing livestock for 3 years. His voice was rough, certain. "Trail leads here." "Haven't seen any wolves," Grandfather said. The man's eyes shifted to the woodpile, to the blood trail, half covered by fresh snow but still visible. "She's here. Been tracking her for 2 days. This is private property. That wolf cost me everything." The man took a step forward. "Lost my trapping license, my business, my reputation, all because someone reported me for doing my job." My blood turned to ice. "My name is William Crane," he said, "and I've been hunting this wolf pack for 3 years. She's the last one. I'm going to finish what I started." I stepped into view, Siku in my arms. "You killed my father." Crane's eyes locked onto mine. Then the pup. His jaw tightened. "Your father chose a wolf over human welfare. Made his choice. Now I'm making mine." "The traps were illegal," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "You broke the law. I fed my family. Your father destroyed that for a predator." He unslung his rifle. "Now I'm here to collect what's mine. That wolf outside, she's the one from the trap. The one your father died for. 3 years, and she's still alive." That ends today. Grandfather stood frozen, his rifle half raised. The man who killed his son indirectly, but still versus the wolves he'd blamed for 3 years. Every lie, every misdirection, every year of hate crystallizing in one impossible moment. Going to finish what I started, Crane repeated, chambering around. And I realized this wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about which lie we'd all keep living. "You're not taking her," Grandfather said, his rifle now fully raised. "Not on my land." Crane's eyes narrowed. "Then I'll take her and the pup both. Stand aside, an old man." I moved into the doorway, blocking his path. Siku clutched against my chest. The pup sensed the tension, whimpering softly. "You'll have to go through me," I said. Crane stared at me like I was an insect. "Little girl, move. This doesn't concern you. You killed my father. It concerns me. Your father killed himself, choosing animals over people." He took a step forward. "Now move, or I'll move you." "No." We stood there, frozen in a tableau of impossible choices. 2 rifles, 1 child, 1 principle. The wind screamed around us, driving snow horizontal, temperature dropping past -50, the kind of cold that killed exposed flesh in minutes. Grandfather's internal conflict was visible on his face, years of misdirected hate warring with the truth he'd just confessed. His rifle wavered between Crane and the ground. He'd spent 3 years teaching me to hate wolves, and now his granddaughter stood between a gun and one, willing to die for it. Crane's patience snapped. "Dakota died for a wolf. You want to die for one too." "My father died for something," I said, my voice carrying over the wind. "You've been living for nothing but revenge. There's a difference." The truth of it hit Crane visibly. His face twitched, but the gun stayed raised. "That wolf killed 3 sheep, 2 calves, and a dog over 3 years. She's a predator. She doesn't deserve mercy. She's a mother," I said. "That's what mothers do. They hunt, they protect, they survive. Just like you, just like me, just like everyone. She's an animal. So are we." The standoff stretched. 30 seconds, a minute. My arms ached from holding Siku. The cold was seeping through my coat, through my skin, toward my bones. But I didn't move. Then, behind Crane, movement. The mother wolf stood. Everyone froze. She was dying, anyone could see that. The trap had done its work. Infection and blood loss claiming her by inches. But she rose anyway, on 3 legs and sheer will, and limped between Crane and our door. Not aggressive, protective. The same thing I was doing. The same thing any mother would do. Crane pivoted, rifle swinging toward her. "There you are." "No," I screamed, lunging off the porch with Siku. "Don't look at her. She's doing what any mother would do." I stood beside the wolf now, child and animal side by side in the snow. The wolf didn't growl at me, didn't snap. She simply held her ground, her body between Crane's gun and her baby in my arms. Grandfather's voice cracked. "Lower the gun, Crane." "She deserves to die." "So do I." Grandfather stepped off the porch, his own rifle now pointed at Crane. "So do you. We all let Dakota down. We all made choices. But this child, my granddaughter, she's the only one of us choosing right. Lower your weapon." "I've hunted this wolf for 3 years. 3 years I lost everything because of her pack. You lost everything because of your choices," I shouted. "The illegal traps, the lies, the killing. She was just trying to survive. You were trying to profit." Crane's face contorted with rage and pain. His finger tightened on the trigger. The wolf swayed, barely able to stand. I held Siku tighter, tears freezing on my cheeks. "Mr. Crane, please." The crack wasn't a gunshot. It was ice. The creek beneath us, frozen solid for 4 months, suddenly spiderwebbed with fractures. Crane stood directly over where the underground spring ran, the weak point grandfather had always warned me about. The combination of his weight, the wolf's, mine, and the unusual warmth of the past few days created the perfect storm. Crane's eyes went wide. He tried to step back. Too late. The ice gave way with a sound like breaking bones. Crane plunged through, disappearing into black water that was somehow worse than the air above it. Hypothermia would claim him in minutes, maybe seconds. "Let him drown," grandfather shouted. "He killed your father." But I was already moving. My father's voice in my head, clear as the day he died. "We don't save people because they deserve it. We save them because we can." I threw myself toward the hole, the wolf limping aside. "No, revenge killed my father. I won't let it kill anyone else." Crane surfaced, gasping, his hands clawing at ice that kept breaking. His rifle was gone, sunk to the creek bottom. He was trying to scream, but the cold had seized his lungs. I reached for him, couldn't extend far enough. The ice cracked under me. Suddenly, teeth gripped my coat collar, not biting through, just holding. The mother wolf, pulling me back from the edge, keeping me from following Crane into the water. "Let go," I shouted at her. "I have to save him." But she didn't let go. She pulled harder, dragging me backward even as Crane went under again. Then, from the tree line, movement. 3 more wolves emerged from the storm, males, larger, part of the pack. Grandfather raised his rifle at them. But they weren't attacking. The largest, an alpha male with scars across his muzzle, grabbed Crane's rope from where it had fallen in the snow. He and another wolf worked together, incredibly, impossibly, dragging the rope to the hole's edge. The third wolf pushed it toward Crane's flailing hands with his nose. We all stood frozen in shock. Wolves, saving a human, saving the man who'd hunted them for 3 years. Crane grabbed the rope with numb fingers. The wolves pulled, their combined strength dragging him from the water onto more solid ice. They backed away immediately, not approaching closer, just helping. The alpha male looked at me. I swear he looked at me like he understood something we didn't. Then all 4 wolves stepped back, forming a semicircle around Crane's shaking body, watching, waiting. Grandfather and I ran forward, pulling Crane fully onto shore. His lips were blue, his body convulsed, but he was alive. The wolves didn't move. The pack that had survived his 3-year hunt, the pack he'd decimated, the pack he'd sworn to destroy, they had saved him. Crane's rifle lay in the snow where he'd dropped it during the fall. Within his reach, loaded, ready. His hand moved toward it. "Don't," Grandfather said quietly. But he didn't raise his own weapon. The wolves tensed. The mother swayed, barely conscious. The alpha male's hackles rose, but he didn't attack. They were simply waiting for Crane's choice, for all our choices. Crane's fingers touched the rifle stock. He could end it, right now. Kill the wolf that had cost him everything. Finish his 3-year hunt, claim his revenge. I knelt in the snow between him and the wolves, still holding Siku. The pup squirmed in my arms, making small sounds. "Mr. Crane, look at me." His eyes gray, like mine, like my father's found my face. He was shaking so hard his teeth chattered. "I'm 10 years old. I lost my dad. I miss him every single day." My voice broke. "I don't want to lose my humanity too. I don't want to become someone who chooses revenge over mercy, who chooses hate over hope." His hand stayed on the rifle. "If you shoot her, you become the monster you think she is." Tears streamed down my face, freezing in tracks. "If you walk away, you become who my dad believed you could be." Silence. Just wind. Just breathing. Just the sound of snow falling on snow. Crane's finger moved to the trigger. The wolves didn't flee. They stood their ground, the mother wolf in front, her pack behind her, a family. Like ours. Like any family worth saving. Then Crane's face crumpled. The hardness that had sustained him for 3 years shattered like the ice beneath our feet. He began to sob deep, wrenching sounds that came from somewhere beyond words. "I can't," he choked out. "I can't do this anymore. I can't." His hand left the rifle, pushed it away into the snow. "I'm so tired," he whispered. "So tired of hating. So tired of hunting. So tired of being this person." The wolves watched. The mother wolf took one step forward, then another. She limped past Crane, who flinched but didn't reach for his weapon, and came to me. She touched her nose to Siku. Her baby. Alive. Warm. Safe. Then she did something I'll remember until my dying day. She touched her nose to my hand. Gentle, deliberate. A gesture of gratitude that crossed every boundary between species. "Thank you," it said. "Thank you for saving my child." Then she looked at Crane. And slowly, painfully, she lowered her head, not in submission, in acknowledgement, in a peace offering older than human language. The hunt was over. Crane buried his face in his hands and wept like a child. We brought Crane inside before hypothermia could finish what the creek had started. Grandfather built up the fire while I wrapped Crane in every blanket we owned. His shaking was violent, uncontrollable. His skin had gone waxy white, but he was alive. The mother wolf and her pack remained outside, visible through the window, watching. The alpha male had brought her something, a rabbit, freshly killed. She ate weakly while Siku whimpered from his box by the fire, sensing his mother was near. For an hour, no one spoke. The only sounds were the fire crackling, Crane's teeth chattering, and the storm beginning to finally, mercifully, ease outside. Then, as warmth returned to his extremities and color crept back into his face, Crane began to talk. "I need to tell you something," he said, his voice hoarse. "About December 20th, 1992. Grandfather stiffened. I sat forward. "I didn't tell the truth then. Haven't told it to anyone." He stared into the fire like he was seeing through it, into the past. "Your father found a wolf in my trap that day. Female. Caught by the leg, just like the one outside. I arrived while Dakota was trying to free her." My hands clenched. "What happened?" "We argued. He told me the traps were illegal, that he'd reported me to the rangers. I told him he was costing me my livelihood, that wolves were killing my livestock and I had a right to protect what was mine." Crane's voice dropped to barely a whisper. The argument got heated. We were standing near the cliff edge, where the ice meets rock, unstable ground. Your father always knew better than to stand there, but he was focused on the wolf, on freeing her. And, Grandfather's voice was hard as stone, I pushed him. The confession came out like a physical thing, expelled from Crane's body. Just once, not hard. I swear to God, not hard. But we were on the edge, and he lost his balance. He fell, 30 feet down onto the frozen creek below. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. I tried to catch him. I reached out, but Crane's hands demonstrated, grasping at air. By the time I climbed down, he was unconscious. The fall had his neck. He couldn't finish. Grandfather stood abruptly, his chair clattering backward. "You killed my son. The fall killed him." But yes. My hand pushed him. My anger. My choice. Crane looked up, tears streaming. "But that's not the whole truth. That's not the part that's haunted me." "What else could there possibly be?" I asked, my voice breaking. "The wolves came while I was trying to help him. The mother and a pup younger then, maybe 6 months old. I thought they were coming to attack, to finish him. I grabbed my rifle." His face contorted with remembered horror. "But they didn't attack. They laid down beside him. The mother on one side, the pup on the other. pressing their bodies against his, keeping him warm. The cabin went silent except for the fire. I watched for 10 minutes, frozen. They stayed with him. The mother licking his face, the pup whimpering, like they were trying to wake him up, like they were, his voice broke completely, like they were trying to save him, trying to comfort him. Grandfather's legs gave out. He sank back into his chair. "Your father died in their fur," Crane whispered. "Not alone, not cold, with them keeping watch over him like family. When I finally went down to check, they backed away slowly, defensive, but not aggressive. The mother looked at me like she knew, like she understood what I'd done." "Oh, God," I breathed. "I told the authorities I found him after wolves attacked. I lied because I couldn't admit what I'd done. And then he squeezed his eyes shut. I hunted them. For 3 years. I hunted the pack that had shown your father more mercy and death than I'd shown him in life." Grandfather was crying, now silent tears tracking through the weathered canyons of his face. 3 years. 3 years of hating the wrong creatures. 3 years of teaching his granddaughter to fear the animals that had comforted her father in his final moments. "I taught you to hate them," he said to me, his voice wrecked. "Dakota wrote to me once, years ago, 'Wolves are teachers. Dad, they show us what family means.' And I forgot. I forgot everything he tried to teach us." I went to the window. The mother wolf watched me through the glass, her amber eyes ancient and knowing. She had been there. She had kept my father warm. She had tried to save him when the man now sitting in our cabin had caused his death, and we had hated her for it. Grandfather joined me at the window. Then, moving like a man in a dream, he opened the door. The cold rushed in, but he stepped out into it. The mother wolf watched him approach, wary but too weak to run. He knelt in the snow before her. "I'm sorry," he said simply, "for 3 years of hate, for hunting your family, for teaching my granddaughter to fear you when you deserved gratitude." The wolf studied him with those impossible eyes. Then, slowly, she allowed him to approach her wounded leg. He worked gently, his scarred hands that had held rifles aimed at wolves now cleaning her wound, applying salve from our medical kit, wrapping it in clean bandages. She let him, this dying wolf, who had every reason to tear him apart, let him tend her injury. When he brought her inside, carrying her like she weighed nothing, the pack outside tensed, but the alpha male huffed once some signal I didn't understand and they settled. Grandfather laid her by the fire, next to Siku's box. Mother and baby reunited, finally. After 3 days of separation and suffering, Siku crawled out immediately, burrowing into his mother's fur. She curled around him, and the sound she made, a whimper of relief and love, shattered something in my chest that had been frozen for 3 years. I collapsed beside them, my hand on the mother wolf's head, and finally I cried. For my father. For these wolves. For all of us who'd lost so much to pride and lies and misdirected pain. Crane spoke again from his chair, his voice hollow. "I lost my wife over this. The guilt ate at our marriage until she left. Lost my home to legal fees and fines. Lost my trapping license permanently. Lost my reputation. Lost myself." He stared at his hands like they belonged to a stranger. "I've been hunting them because every time I saw them, I saw what I'd done. Thought if I killed them all, I could kill the memory. But you can't kill memory. You can only add to it." I looked up at him through my tears. "You can stop now. You can choose differently. How do I live with this?" Grandfather handed him my father's journal, open to the last page. The unfinished entry from December 20th. "Crane is struggling. Want to help him see." The sentence ended there, interrupted by death. "He was coming to save a wolf and help you," I said. He saw something in you worth saving. Honor that. Finish what he started. Crane read the words over and over, his lips moving silently. He was coming to help me. That's who my father was, I said. Someone who believed people could change, that mercy mattered more than being right, that saving others, even our enemies, saves ourselves. Crane pressed the journal to his chest and sobbed like the world was ending. And maybe his world was. The world of hate and hunting and hollow revenge. But something new was being born in its ashes, something that looked like hope. Morning came on the fourth day with something we hadn't seen in nearly a week's sunlight, pale and weak, but there. The storm was breaking. The mother wolf was stronger. Not healed, healing would take weeks, if it happened at all, but stronger. She stood on 3 legs and moved to the door, looking back at us expectantly. When grandfather opened it, she barked once, a summons. She wants us to follow her, I said. Crane looked uncertain. Follow a wolf into the wilderness. She saved your life yesterday, grandfather said quietly. Maybe it's time we trusted her. We dressed in our warmest gear and followed. The pack emerged from the tree line, the alpha male, 2 younger males, all scarred from Crane's 3-year hunt. They flanked us like guards, but not threateningly, more like escorts. The mother wolf led us 2 miles through snow that came to my waist in places. Crane and grandfather took turns breaking trail. Nobody spoke. The only sounds were our breathing, the crunch of snow, and the occasional bark from the wolves guiding us. She brought us to a rocky outcropping I'd never seen before, hidden in a fold of the mountain. A cave entrance, barely visible, partially collapsed from winter ice. The mother wolf stopped at the entrance and looked back at us, waiting. Grandfather went in first, flashlight in hand. I heard his sharp intake of breath. Dear God. I entered next, my eyes adjusting to the dimness. What I saw stopped my heart. 4 wolf bodies, frozen in various positions of death, some still in traps. Crane's traps. His identification tag still attached. A juvenile male, barely more than a pup, his leg severed by steel teeth. An older female, throat torn by snare wire. 2 others, male and female, their bodies showing signs of rifle wounds. Crane's work, 3 years of revenge, cataloged in fur and bone. But there was more. In the back of the cave, carefully arranged, were human belongings. A backpack, rope, a canteen. Crane's name written on the water bottle in faded marker. Equipment from 1992, and beneath a small cairn of rocks, protected from the elements, my father's missing pack, the one he'd been carrying the day he died, the one authorities never found. She's been guarding this place, grandfather whispered. All this time. The mother wolf entered the cave behind us, limping to the center. She looked at each frozen body, her pack, her family, then at us, then at Crane. Understanding crashed over me like an avalanche. She wasn't running from you. She was leading you here. Crane had gone white as the snow outside. I don't understand. For 3 years, you've been hunting her, I said. And for 3 years, she's been trying to bring you to this place. To show you. To make you face what you've done. The mother wolf moved to the youngest body, the juvenile with the severed leg. She nuzzled it gently, a sound of grief escaping her throat that no human should ever have to hear. Her child. One of her children. Oh, God, Crane breathed, falling to his knees. Oh, God, I didn't know. Some of them I never checked, never looked to see if they had pups waiting, never thought about. His voice shattered. What have I done? What have I done? Among the frozen bodies, I could see the story. A family. Mates, siblings, children. Not monsters. Not killers. Just a family trying to survive in a world that wanted them dead. The alpha male approached Crane slowly. Crane flinched, but the wolf simply looked at him. In his scarred face, I could read 3 years of loss. This was the pack's protector. and he'd failed to protect them. But he'd succeeded in protecting the mother, in keeping her alive long enough to complete her mission, bringing the hunter to face his hunt. The mother wolf moved to Crane. He froze, barely breathing. She lowered her head and dropped something at his feet. A necklace. Grandfather picked it up with shaking hands. Leather cord, silver pendant, engraved with symbols from my father's adopted tribe. "This is Takota's," he whispered. "He wore this every day. They never found it on his body." The mother wolf had been carrying it for 3 years, through every hunt, every trap, every bullet that missed, carrying a piece of the man who'd died trying to save her, waiting for someone to understand. Crane took the necklace from Grandfather's hands, reading the inscription through his tears. Takota, he who is humble. My father's name, his chosen identity, his way of life. A memory surfaced, sharp and clear. I was 6 years old, sitting on my father's lap by a fire much like this one. He was teaching me to track, to read signs in snow and mud. "Remember, Nayeli," he'd said, "the wolf is not our enemy. He is our mirror. When we hate him, we hate ourselves. When we fear him, we fear our own wildness. When we save him, we save ourselves." Why, Daddy, because we're not so different. We're both predators trying to survive, both parents protecting our young, both creatures who understand that family is worth dying for. I'd forgotten. In 3 years of grief, I'd forgotten. But the wolf hadn't. This whole journey, the storm, the wounded mother at our door, the desperate pup, the confrontation, the ice-breaking, all of it was my father's final lesson, not delivered in words from beyond the grave, but through the creature he'd died protecting, through her patience, her persistence, her refusal to give up even when hunted to the edge of extinction. She had brought us here, to this cave of sorrow, to show us the cost of hate, to end the cycle, to offer a choice: continue the killing, or choose mercy. The wolf pack began to sing, all 4 of them, their voices rising in harmony that was older than human civilization. It sounded like grief, like forgiveness, like goodbye to their dead and hello to something new. The sound pierced something in my chest that had been locked tight. I began to cry, really cry, for the first time since my father's funeral. 3 years of tears, finally released. Grandfather joined me, his weathered face streaming. "Takota, I'm so sorry. I forgot everything you taught us. I let hate poison what you gave us." Crane sobbed openly, kneeling among the wolves he'd killed, holding the necklace of the man he'd killed. "Forgive me. Please. Someone forgive me." The mother wolf approached him again, pressed her forehead to his chest. Not aggression, not even forgiveness. Exactly. Understanding. We were all broken, all haunted, all carrying grief too heavy for any creature to bear alone. But here, in a cave full of death, surrounded by the consequences of our choices, something shifted. The cycle was ending. The killing was over. And maybe, just maybe, healing could begin. We returned to the cabin in silence, carrying grief and understanding in equal measure. The 4th day was ending, the sun already setting behind Denali's peaks. The mother wolf and her pack stayed close, no longer wary, no longer hunted. Inside, Siku had grown stronger in just these few days. When his mother entered, he tumbled out of his box with puppy enthusiasm, all awkward legs and excited yips. The reunion was everything: mother curling around baby, licking him thoroughly, the pup nursing with small, contented sounds. For the first time since this journey began, I laughed. Not the tentative sound from before, but real laughter from deep in my belly. The kind that releases pain along with joy. And then the tears came. Not quiet tears, but deep, wrenching sobs that I'd held back for 3 years. I cried into Grandfather's chest while he held me, his own tears falling into my hair. "I miss him," I choked out. "I miss Dad so much. Every single day. I know, little one. So do I. Every minute of every day. Crane watched from across the room, holding my father's necklace like a lifeline. I'm so sorry, Nayeli. I know sorry isn't enough. I know nothing I say can. Sorry isn't enough. I agreed, wiping my face. But change is. What will you change? He was silent for a long moment, staring at the necklace, then at the wolves by the fire, then at his own scarred hands. Hands that had set traps, pulled triggers, taken lives. Everything, he finally whispered. I'll change everything. The fifth day brought clearing skies and hard decisions. We sat around the table, three humans trying to figure out how to move forward from the wreckage of the past. Crane spoke first. I should turn myself in. Tell the authorities what really happened to Dakota. Face the consequences. Grandfather shook his head slowly. Truth serves no one now. Dakota's gone. Bringing you up on charges won't bring him back. Won't heal anything. Then what? How do I live with this? You pay your debt to the living, I said, surprising myself with the certainty in my voice. Not the dead. The dead are beyond our help. But we're still here. They're still here. I gestured to the wolves. Help us survive. Help them survive. Crane looked at me, really looked, seeing perhaps for the first time the child whose father he'd killed, whose family he'd shattered. How? Come here each winter, Grandfather said. This land is brutal. 2 people can barely survive it. 3 could thrive. Help us with supplies, repairs, food. Be family. And the wolves. Crane's voice broke on the word. Protect them, I said. The way Dad would have wanted. Make sure no one else hunts them. No more traps, no more killing. Crane nodded slowly, then stood. I need to do something first. Over the next 6 hours, we followed him through the wilderness. He knew where every trap was, 47 in total, scattered across federal and private land. Some had been set 3 years ago and forgotten. Each one. He dismantled carefully, apologizing to the empty air, to the wolves watching from the trees, to the memory of the man he'd wronged. At the last trap, the one that had caught the mother wolf, he knelt in the snow and wept. The mother wolf approached, limping but alive. She sniffed the dismantled steel, then looked at Crane. I'm sorry, he told her, for your pack, your family, your pain. I can't undo it, but I swear to you no more. Never again. She touched her nose to his forehead, brief, deliberate. And somehow, impossibly, it felt like forgiveness. That evening, Crane made a fire and burned something in the flames. His trapping license, 3 years expired. His hunting permits, every document that represented his old life. I'll apply to the Wildlife Service, he said. Study them instead of hunting them. Learn what I should have learned years ago. Grandfather handed him my father's journal. Read this. Every page. Become who he believed you could be. Crane took it reverently. I'll try. God help me. I'll try. The hardest moment came on the morning of the 6th day. The storm had fully passed. The temperature was rising, still brutal by any measure, but survivable. The wolves needed to move, to hunt, to return to their territory before other predators claimed it, which meant Siku had to go. I'd known this moment was coming, but knowing didn't make it easier. I held the pup, no longer quite so small, already showing signs of the strong wolf he'd become, and felt my heart breaking in a different way than before. You have to go be wild, I whispered to him. Be free, be safe, be everything you were meant to be. He licked my face with his rough little tongue. Those gray eyes, so like mine, full of something that looked almost like understanding. The mother wolf approached slowly. I knelt, bringing Siku to her level. She took him gently by the scruff, but before leaving, she did something I'll carry with me forever. She bowed her head to me, deep, deliberate, the ancient gesture of respect between equals. Then she turned to grandfather and did the same. To the man who'd hunted her kind, who'd taught his granddaughter to hate, who'd finally learned mercy. She acknowledged his change. Finally, she approached Crane. He stood frozen, hardly breathing. She looked at him for a long moment, this man who'd killed her family, wounded her, hunted her to the edge of extinction. Every reason to tear him apart. Instead, she bowed her head to him too, forgiveness granted. The hunt ended, the cycle broken. The pack left through the trees, the mother wolf strong enough now to keep up. Siku looking back once before disappearing into the wilderness he belonged to. I waved until I couldn't see them anymore, tears freezing on my cheeks. That night, 3 people sat around the fire. The cabin felt different, lighter somehow, despite everything we'd learned, everything we'd lost. Maybe because of it. Your father would be proud, grandfather said softly. You think so? I know so. You did what I couldn't. You loved instead of hated. You saved instead of destroyed. Crane added quietly. You saved a wolf. But you saved us too. 3 broken people, and you showed us how to heal. We saved each other, I said. That's what Dad tried to teach us. That's what the wolves showed us. None of us survive alone. We need each other, all of us. Human and wolf, broken and healing, lost and found. Grandfather pulled out something I hadn't seen in years. My father's rifle, the one he'd never used, kept wrapped in oilcloth in the closet. He placed it in my hands. When you're ready, this is yours. But promise me something. What? Grandfather, use it only to protect, never to hate, never for revenge, always for life. I promised. Crane leaned forward. I'll teach you everything about this wilderness, the right way, the way Dakota would have taught you, like Dad would have wanted. I'll try, every day. I'll try to be better than I was. Then for the first time in 3 years, sitting around that fire with an old man who'd learned to forgive and a broken man learning to heal, I felt something I'd forgotten existed. Family. 1 year later, on December 20th, 1996. The anniversary of my father's death had become something else. An awakening, a transformation, a new beginning. Our cabin had changed. Crane had helped grandfather expand it, adding a research station and guest quarters. Scientists came now carefully vetted, respectful ones to study wolf behavior without interference. Crane lived there permanently, his work published in wildlife journals, his paper on wolf conservation dedicated to Dakota's memory. I was 11 now, tracking wolf packs with skill that had made me the youngest licensed wildlife guide in Alaska. Grandfather taught traditional tracking methods at the university in Anchorage, coming home every weekend. We were family again, but bigger now, better. Evening fell on this sacred day. We stood outside together, the 3 of us, when we heard it, howling, from the ridge. We looked up and saw them, 5 wolves silhouetted against the darkening sky. The mother, we called her Kimmy now. Secret in my father's language. Beside her, Siku, no longer a pup, but a magnificent young male, strong and proud, and 3 small shapes tumbling around their legs. New pups, new life. The cycle continuing. They came down from the ridge slowly, approaching with caution but not fear. Siku led them, his mother close behind. When they reached us, Siku did something extraordinary. He brought one of his pups, a female with gray eyes, and placed her at my feet. Then he looked at me, and I swear he remembered cold nights and warm milk and a human child who'd saved his life. Trust restored. full circle completed. Crane knelt and placed 3 stones beside a memorial we'd built for the wolves he'd killed. 1 stone for each life taken. A vow renewed annually to protect rather than destroy. Grandfather placed native flowers preserved specially beside my father's name carved into wood. Traditional ritual for honoring the dead. I placed my father's journal, open to the last page, where I'd written in careful script, "Dad, I finished your sentence. Crane is struggling. Want to help him see that we're all connected. That saving others saves ourselves. That love survives everything, even winter. That wolves teach us what family means. That mercy matters more than revenge. That every life, human or animal, deserves a chance at redemption. Message received, lesson learned, living it every day. Love always. Your daughter, Nayeli." Snow began to fall. Not the violent storm that had brought us together, but soft, gentle flakes that blessed rather than buried. The temperature read -48. But standing there, 3 humans and 5 wolves. Together, I'd never felt warmer. Siku's pup climbed onto my boot. Fearless. Her mother watched. Calm. Grandmother Kimmy touched her nose to grandfather's hand. The alpha male stood beside Crane, shoulder nearly touching his leg. The barriers had fallen. The war had ended. The healing was real. Grandfather spoke first, to Dakota, who saw what we couldn't, who believed when we wouldn't, who loved when we hated. To Dakota, Crane echoed, who tried to save me before I knew I needed saving. I'm sorry I learned too late. To Dad, I whispered, scratching Siku's pup behind her ears. Who taught us the most important lesson that in the coldest winters, the only way to survive is to share our warmth? All of us. Together. The wolves sang their haunting song. We stood in silence, listening to music older than language, feeling connection deeper than words. Later. From inside the warm cabin, I watched through the window as wolf prints and human prints marked the snow side by side, leading to the same place. Home. In -50-degree cold. We had found warmth. In the deepest winter. We had found spring. In the darkest grief. We had found light. Because my father was right about everything, the wolf was our mirror, our teacher. Our reminder that love survives everything, even death, even hate. Even the longest, cruelest winter Alaska could deliver. The ice had finally thawed, and underneath, life was waiting. 3 years of misdirected blame. A family of wolves hunted for a crime they never committed. A child taught to hate the creatures who had comforted her dying father with warmth and presence in his final moments. This story reminds us that rage needs a target, and the innocent often become our scapegoats when truth is too painful to face. The wolves didn't kill Dakota, a tragic accident did. But admitting that would have meant confronting human failure, human guilt, human complexity. Easier to point at the wilderness and call it evil. Yet this story also shows us the transformative power of gratitude and chosen family. Nayeli's simple act of mercy, saving a dying pup despite everything she'd been taught, broke a cycle of violence that had consumed 3 years and countless lives. Her grandfather learned that family isn't just blood, it's who stands beside you in -50-degree darkness. Crane discovered that redemption is possible when we choose to serve life instead of feeding death. Real family shows up. Real gratitude changes us. Real courage means protecting the vulnerable even when everyone says they're the enemy. Now I ask you, have you ever been wrongly blamed for something you didn't do? Like the wolves in this story. How did it feel to be judged without anyone seeking the truth?